Hi, welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Your host, Sandhu, today with you. And today I am speaking to a beautiful soul, a lady that I have personally worked with. Her name is Indrani Phillips. Hi, Indrani, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Just to tell you a bit more about Indrani. Indrani is an intuitive business and mindset coach who worked in corporate America for over 16 years before she actually left to set up her own business. And not only that, she's had her own trials and tribulations through life. So this is all about Indrani and her journey. So Indrani, how are you today?
I am amazing. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for accepting my invite. So Indrani, like I said, you're an intuitive business and mindset coach. What made you take that step from corporate America to become a coach?
Oh my goodness. So my journey wasn't one of, I want to be a coach and this is exactly what I want to do. My life has been kind of a hummingbird where I've tried a lot of ventures while in corporate America. And backtracking, I worked at Toyota for 16 years. And the last 2.5 to 3 years, I was in the dream job. I was working in organizational development. I was doing a lot of mentoring and coaching with executives. And all of a sudden, life happens, right? And a lot of the initiatives that I was doing for diversity and inclusion wasn't resonating with me and who I was. So I started feeling a shift between the different objectives and missions that my company had that was very disaligned with what I was going through. So at the time, I fell into an interior design business because a friend of a friend came over and I think it was a baby shower at my house. And she saw my home and she's like, Indrani, I'm having a baby. I need you to design my nursery. I've had no formal experience at all, but I've had a lot of homes. And so I said, sure. I started on that venture and it quickly became very successful. And so I was working full time. I had 2 kids at home. At the time, my daughter was 5 months and my older one was 7 years. And I was running this interior design business. And so I thought that was going to be my golden ticket out of corporate America. So I was really excited about it. I remember my days were waking up at 6 a.m., getting home with the kids around 6 p.m. And then at 9 o'clock, I would start my interior design business and do work around that until 2 a.m. Well, what ended up happening was that I started realizing as the jobs got bigger that the interior design business isn't like the shows where you come in and the clients are away for 2 days and then they come home and it's a big reveal. Yeah. More of dealing with them on a daily basis. And it was a lot of the change management. I would open up kitchens and see mold. The contractors would do work incorrectly. So I was a bearer of a lot of bad news and it was a lot of stress. The biggest thing for me was I was outside of my house more than I wanted to because my whole transition to become an entrepreneur was so I could be at home with the kids more. So as I started realizing that this wasn't for me, I started developing a lot of anxiety, stress, worry, and it got to a point where I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, okay, now I've got to go into a job that I don't love anymore. And thinking about being there for another 20 years made me nauseous. I'm like, I can't continue to do this. So I ended up being diagnosed with depression. My doctor went through a whole bunch of tests with me because I actually had a physical breakdown and I thought that I had a virus or something. So we ended up doing a ton of different tests to see what was going on. And then the doctor, I remember her coming in and giving me the results of the last test that I did. And she's like, it's negative, but I'm diagnosing you with depression. And that was the scariest thing because I had this beautiful, amazing life. And so I was on disability for a few months. And as I started going through it and going through therapy, which wasn't working too well, I ended up I went to a networking event because I was called. I followed my intuition. And long story short, I ended up getting connected with a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I just knew of executive coaching in corporate America and sports coaching.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is this? What do you do? How are you different from a therapist? And as I started connecting with her deeply, I was like, oh my goodness, this is my sign.
Mm.
So I bit the bullet. I invested with her. And I started realizing that this was exactly what I was looking for, because all of my jobs, all of my businesses I've done while working corporate America, I realized the one thing that I loved was a transformation.
Mm.
And I was doing transformation in people's styles and with their clothing and corporate America and interior design. But now I realized that I could do a transformation with people's mindset and help them achieve their goals and do it from home. So
when you
God,
when you were going through the therapy, when you compare the therapy to how the coach helped you, I mean, obviously I've been in therapy myself, and obviously it depends on who you go to, like whether you see a counselor or someone who's a psycho therapist, like you go through CBT or whatever. So would you say therapy helped you at all on any level, or would you say that the coach helped you more because they had their own life experiences and that empowered you more to kind of get to the bottom of things?
that is such a great question. I feel like I've been in therapy my entire life with my past and my childhood and everything going on.
Yeah.
So with that, I think the therapist kind of, the way that I see the two as being different is they are very great at what they do. But I was like tired of going back into my past and talking about what happened as a child and all of those things. And although, you know, I did have some help with it, you know, and I felt okay with, you know, coming out of it, I didn't feel any progress or momentum towards what was missing. So when I met with this coach, I was like, oh my gosh, like I know that I didn't even realize what I was looking for until I met her to say, oh my gosh, what I'm looking for is a new purpose. What I'm looking for is following and fulfilling my soul mission. And so the coach was much more proactive to say, okay, how can we create this life for you, rather than the therapist saying, let's rehash stuff from your past, which I was over. I was like, okay, I'm done talking about my childhood. I get it.
It's almost like when you think about when you go back to your childhood, because I know obviously we've spoken at length on our calls when we've worked together, that obviously coming from like a Eastern culture to a Western culture, parents still had their Eastern mindset. But how did you find that? How did you find that the Eastern influence was like? Was it difficult growing up in a Western society? Because obviously every family is different. Where with my family, they're very traditional, quite conservative, not liberal. You know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You know, you have to complete your education. You still got to do the housework, and you've got to get married. You know, nothing else.
Right? Oh my gosh, Jack, absolutely. And my parents came here when my mom got married at 19, and so she came here. So they lived here longer, much longer than they did in India.
Yeah.
But I was one of 3 kids, 2 brothers and myself. Yeah. And where I grew up, I was born in Pennsylvania. It was 98% Caucasian. So I wasn't white. I wasn't Black. People didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with me. And then on top of that, having my father's tradition to say, I don't want to hang out with anyone that's not Indian. I mean, that took my whole pool to one person.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I just remember my dad saying comments like, you can't go out but your brothers can, because you can come home pregnant. And this is when I was 12, 13 years old. And I didn't even know about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that thing where they're planting that seed of fear in you when you don't even know anything and you're so innocent. And those things leave such a mark on you, you know, as you get older, deep down, you're thinking, what have I done? And it makes you feel very insecure within yourself.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so it's almost like, as you're getting older and you're developing friendships, you know, with boys and girls, obviously when you go through high school and everything, it must have had such an impact on you, kind of growing up, maybe until you got to college. Did you Did you find that?
Absolutely. I know that I had to start sneaking out to just hang out with my friends. And so I tried to like bend the rules a little bit so I could have some freedom. But I remember when I was 17 and I was a senior in high school, and I had my first boyfriend, and I met him at like at my job, and he was Italian. And even if he was Indian, my parents would have freaked out. And I just remember my friends being able to go out, go to the mall. I mean, do normal things, go to the movies, and I wasn't able to. And I remember one night I took pills to kill myself because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so unhappy. My parents had violent, huge fights. So cops would be called, the dishes would be broken. So I didn't have like salvation at home, but I couldn't go out and hang out with friends and have my own space. So my own space became my closet. And so I ended up taking pills. And I remember when I did it, as soon as I did, I had this awakening to say, oh my gosh, you've got so much more life to live. And so thank God, like I didn't take enough, and my heart started beating really fast, and I started getting really like nervous. So I told, I didn't tell my parents, but I called a friend, and thank goodness, you know, I didn't take enough to have any kind of impact. But that was when I had my awakening to say, you know what? I'm done being a victim. And if I do really good in school, then I can go to a good college, and then I can get the heck out of this household. But just like you were saying earlier, that it's like in the Eastern culture, it's like before you're even born, you have a plan.
Yeah.
Got a plan for you that you're going to do this, you're going to go to college. For my parents, there's a lot of financial issues. So my mom always wasn't making enough money. So I knew financial freedom is something I wanted to do, and that was instilled in me. But I didn't have any other options outside of college. It was like, do all of these things.
Yeah.
So I became a timeline kind of girl.
Yeah.
So I went to Arizona State. I lived at home through college, which was a nightmare. But we were 10 minutes away from the campus. So my dad's like, well, either you're going to pay for your school and your tuition and your books. I'm not going to pay for anything, or you're going to stay in the house. So that motivated me to bust my ass and graduate in 3.5 years. And then I moved to California. But I was still on the Indian mentality to say, okay, I've got to be a certain age when I get married. I can only marry an Indian. I've got to have babies by a certain time. So I went through the steps, and I remember that even when we told my parents we announced an engagement through a conversation with me and my ex-husband. My mom told me at the time, like after I told her I was getting divorced, she's like, I knew he wasn't right for you, but I knew that you were so stuck in your mindset and you're so stubborn. And I said, I made a decision. Perfect. I can check off a marriage off the list. I wasn't even in the mindset to receive any of it. And sometimes we become programmed like robots to say, okay, what's the next thing? Okay, now I've got to do this. I've got to get a job. Now I got to get married at 26, have my 2 kids by 30. And then I just live this half-ass life and just be a perfect Indian wife, and daughter-in-law and mother.
But nowadays, I mean, obviously that was like 10 years ago, 10 years plus, right? But obviously since then, things have changed a lot. Society has changed. But obviously, when we were growing up, it was very, very different. Like in the 80s, 90s, it was very, very different. And now you kind of look at around you and it's like, everyone's like, no, we're fine. We're doing this, we're doing that. But anyway, coming back to you, obviously, what the question that I wanted to ask you is, when did you start tapping into your intuitive gifts? Well, have you always known that you've been intuitive, or did that come later, or did that happen during your marriage? When did that happen?
Oh my gosh. So it started happening when I started awakening. And this was, I was married at 26. Right before I found out I was pregnant, I was thinking about getting a divorce because I wanted alignment. I wanted to be married with someone that had the same religion and the same background, and it would be easier for us to raise kids. So it was all head, no heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started realizing that my ex-husband and I were so opposite and so different that I was really contemplating getting a divorce. And then I think it was a week or two later, I found I was pregnant. And so I ended up staying. And I remember, I mean, our life was perfect. We had like the beautiful custom built home, the 4-car garage, the live-in nanny. Like my work at Toyota, my salary didn't even matter because he was making so much money. So on paper, it was perfect. And so I remember one day I walked in from my garage and I walked down the hall and I walked by a mirror that I've seen for 2 years. And all of a sudden, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize who I was. And that was my awakening. That was my breakdown that turned into my awakening to say, who am I? Who am I meant to be? I felt like I was like a ghost living this life. And I checked my heart and my soul at the door. So from there, it became very apparent because things started popping into my life. That ex-boyfriend that I mentioned from high school found me on MySpace. I'm dating myself because I'm talking back when MySpace was a big thing. But he popped in and he started reminding me what it was like to actually be in love. I had a boss at work that him and I started connecting really deeply on an emotional level. And so all of these things started coming up to say, wait a second, there's more to life than just checking off the boxes and living a half-assed life. I wasn't fulfilled in my job at the time at Toyota. I wasn't fulfilled in my marriage. And to be honest, Jack, I was in a point where it was time for me to have my second kid. And because my timeline, I was at I'm nearing 30. I need to have my kid. And instead I asked for a divorce because I knew that if I kept on living this half-assed life, I'd have to continue to medicate with shopping and gossiping and drinking and not dealing with my problems, or I'd have an affair because I was just not fulfilled. Yeah. So, when I asked for my divorce, it was horrible from my husband's side and my father's side. My father would tell me, he'd send me emails every day to my work to say, you're horrible. Why are you doing this? You're selfish. You're this, you're that. You should give full custody to my ex-husband. How can you do this? But I knew, and even now when I think back to that, I can't believe I had the bravery and the courage to do that. But I knew that I had to do this for my daughter. So the irony part of the story was I ended up staying because of my daughter, and I ended up leaving because of her. Because I didn't want her to see a marriage and a life that like there was no love there. There was no connection. We were so opposite. And we were always arguing and bickering. Everyone called us the old married couple. I didn't want my daughter, and it wasn't as traumatic as I experienced as a child because my parents had it was very traumatic. But I knew that I wanted my kids to see love and laughter and light and happiness. And I wanted to be fulfilled. So at that time, I found myself, instead of having baby number 2 at 30, I was a single divorced mom at 30. And that's when my whole spiritual awakening started coming and saying, wait a second, there's more to life than just having things or just checking things off the box. There's more to what is that feeling of fulfillment? What am I meant here to experience? And that was when I started tapping into the personal development and this spirituality, the co-creation, the manifesting. And that was when I realized my darkest times in all the big points in my life led to the greatest awakenings. Because now I've been married to my husband for almost 6 years. And I knew him in college. He actually had a class with my ex-husband in college. My ex-husband was not happy when he found out what was happening. But I married my best friend, and he was not waiting for me, but he knew that we were going to be together, even though we were married. It was very weird. But if I didn't step through my fear, and if I just stayed safe and said, okay, what will happen? How will my finances change? Who's going to marry, a divorced mom, especially Indians? If I kept myself in that box, I'd still be miserable. But now I've been able to step through that and work on myself, figure out what blocks that I had. And as I released that, I was able to open myself up to a greater love that I didn't even know was possible.
Great. But the thing is, it's so obviously, how long have you been a coach now for, like intuitive coach?
It's
Like
been about 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you had your breakdown, how long before that would you say it took you to work out that you wanted to work for yourself fully as an entrepreneur, as a intuitive business coach, mindset coach?
So when I started, my first coach and I worked on a program that I never launched. I didn't do anything with. It was just kind of like fixing, like, I was like, okay, I'm going to be this coach. I'm going to help women create an amazing home and a great lifestyle and all these things. And I'm like, okay, let me try it. But I didn't launch that at all. And then I started getting into the life coaching. So I did that for a while. And what I experienced was I was helping women really break through the things holding them back. But then as I started building a brand and as I started creating amazing visibility for myself, the women that were coming to me were coaches. And they're like, I want to do what you did. So again, it kind of happened very organically. And as I did that, I started listening within more. And so many times we're always asking for answers without, like we're asking people, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? But once we start coming into ourselves more and then getting confirmation from people rather than validation, that's where my intuition started opening up. And that's where I started trusting it and knowing that anyone, as you know, can be intuitive. Anyone can tap into those psychic abilities once we're ready, once we're open, and once we're willing to do some of that.
Yeah, I mean, they always say the answers are always within, but obviously the way that we've been programmed, we always look without.
Oh yeah, like Google is a verb now. The answer for everything. And I think that it's so interesting in social media and with Google, we're so far advanced on the technology that now we're so reliant upon it. So we're using this Google as a compass or people as a compass rather than saying, wait a second, find that within.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone needs to go back to basics before technology.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's almost like wherever you go, it's like, for example, if you go to a coffee shop or a restaurant, the first thing some people will do is there any Wi-Fi here? And it's almost like everyone's on the phone and there's no basic human connection.
Interaction. It was funny because as you mentioned that one of the biggest, like I've had like breakthroughs through my life. And so one of the biggest breakthroughs I had in my spiritual development was, I will tell you that I am an opt-in email whore. I will opt into anything. I'll give my email address and be like, oh, that's good. That's good. So as a result, I have a junk email address that I have all of this stuff flooding in through that I hardly check. One day I saw something and I clicked on it. Something told me to click on it. And as I did, I saw this story and it was about the Hindu gods and they were hiding this one thing, like our intuition and our limitless powers and abilities. And one of the other gods that had a bad intent with it was trying to find this. So Krishna was told all of his disciples, let's go hide this. So they went to all the different planes of the earth to try to hide it from this other god that wanted to use it for a negative thing. And then they figured out the best place to hide it where no one will find it within us. And when I got that, I was just like, oh my goodness, like we have all this tapped into us, but we're so seeking validation and we're seeking self-acceptance. We're seeking approval from others, but we're not looking within and saying, wait a second, how do we feel about ourselves? So once we start tuning in, then we start finding those answers. And I will say that we start seeing the breadcrumb trail because now it's visible to us to say, okay, take this course, work with this person, do this. And following the nudges is what created my business now, which I would, if somebody told me 3 years ago that I would be a business and intuitive mindset coach, I'd be like, are you crazy? Like that is so not me. And having to be visible. I mean, Jag, I grew up with a stuttering issue, with feeling like an outsider, jacked up teeth, not believing in myself. I would literally, even in college, when I was late to a class, I wouldn't go into the lecture hall because I didn't want anyone looking at me and having any unnecessary attention to me. So I would literally skip class and sit outside of class and then ask somebody for their notes. It was that bad. And now I'm like on live all the time and sharing my message. So it's amazing. As we start doing it, we get the gifts and we get the guidance that we need to get to where we desire to go.
Yeah, it's amazing how where you start off and then where life takes you. It's almost like you've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I can completely relate to you. Like when you're growing up, you're kind of forced into a box. So you've got to fit in that box no matter what way. You know, you can't think outside of the box. It's almost like they like shutting you down. And I had that growing up myself with my dad. It's almost like, you're a girl, girls shouldn't be heard. I don't know if you had that with your parents as well. But it's almost like as I've grown up, they've seen me doing different things, not the norm. It's like they're kind of shocked, but it's a good.
What do we do with all of this?
What do we do? But it's quite good because it's almost like they're getting astonished each step of the way, which I'm sure like you've probably had that with your parents as well.
Absolutely. Like it's funny because when I got divorced, my dad was like so upset because he was like, oh, we stuck in the marriage, although it was horrible. And as a kid, I wish my parents got divorced. It was that bad. And then when I brought Michael, my husband, home for the first time, my dad was home and we didn't even know for an hour because he wouldn't come out of the room. And I was so nervous about it. But then when he finally came out, and the way that my husband is he can talk to anybody. So within 30 minutes, they were connected and they're great. And now my dad loves my husband, but it took the time. He had to see me in a different way. And now he sees me as an entrepreneur. He was like, what? You're leaving Toyota? Like, what are you doing? Wait, that's your financial stability. That is a great company. And although I knew all of that, I think I told him after I left. I didn't even ask for that permission anymore. I'm like, I'm a divorce. Like, I'm already divorced. I'm already remarried. I have my 2 kids. So once I stepped away from the approval or what they would think, and I just followed my bliss, and then I told them as needed on what was going on, it was great because now he sees me as, I don't want to say like, I don't know if it's an equal, but he sees me as me truly who I am. And I don't have to worry about the impression that he's getting of me. I'm able to stand in my power and say, Dad, if you like this, awesome. And if you don't, I'm fine with that too. And as I've done that, he's respected me much more because he realizes that he can't, I don't want to say control me, but you know how parents, especially Indian parents are, they want to make sure that they're doing it all in love, but they want to like kind of be the puppeteers. And
almost like, even though you're still their child, you will always be their child, like that little 6-year-old or whatever. You know, it's almost like you'll be like, as soon as you start saying no, that's when they start sitting up and paying attention. But it takes a few attempts for them to actually realize that. But coming back to you meeting your husband, you said that you were at college together. So how did you actually connect? Did you actually manifest him? Because I know you're into your manifestation.
Right. And I will say, I'm gonna pause right there. Although I have a manifesting Maven course, I'm more into the co-creation because I feel like the manifestation, like the way that people are using it now is like, I want to manifest working with you. I want to manifest the money for this. And we're doing it from lack. So my new like word that feels really good is co-creation, but absolutely. So with my husband now, I dated him before I got married. So he worked through it as well, and he still does. But he was like, okay, I'm sorry, everyone, but he was like the white boy, and he was like, you know, the bad boy, the white boy, and he was really cute, and I really liked him, but he didn't fit into, like we were talking about, my box of, okay, you've got to be Indian, you've got to be this, you've got to have these qualifications before, you know, I would even consider you.
Yeah.
And so he told me that when we were dating, he actually said, he's like, I would love to marry you. I don't even remember this conversation. And I was like, what did I say? He's like, exactly that. Like, to be like, no, you're white. Sorry. You know, I'm just seeing it as like, And girl, I say what's on my mind. And so I didn't even realize, because I bet you my subconscious like completely blocked that out because that wasn't part of my filter.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, when I got divorced, Mike and I were still at Toyota, but we were in different locations. So I was visiting his location, and we were still like really connected, and we talked and stuff, and I would help him scheme on his girlfriends and stuff. And I kind of knew everything that was going on in his life. And so when he found out that I was getting divorced, he tried to swoop in right away. He was like,
Really?
okay, oh, right away.
So he must have liked you for a very long time, though.
Yeah. So we dated, I got married, and we were so close. So he still called and asked me for advice about girls and stuff. And then we drifted apart when we moved locations, but we were still really close. So whenever we saw each other, it was just like this. I mean, Jack, he was the one. I remember leaving him a voicemail, telling him about the poop that I took in the grocery store because I had to go. And it was a courtesy wipe because when I wipe my butt, there's no poop on the paper. Okay, so this is our relationship that I told him the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he kept that, he kept that recording for a very long time.
Oh, God. So let me just get this right. So you've known Mike since you were at college?
Yeah, since I was like 20.
Since
and
20.
I'll be 40, so for 20 years.
20 years. God. And then did you date when you were at college, or did you start dating when you were at Toyota?
We started dating. So I thought he was always cute, but I had a boyfriend at the time, and my boyfriend was Indian. My boyfriend turned into my first husband. I feel like I'm Elizabeth Taylor, my first husband. And and then my first husband and I, Devish is his name, we broke up when I got the job to move to California, and he stayed in Arizona. He applied for a trade, and he didn't get the job. So we broke up for a while, but we were always in each other's lives because I would go home and I would see him. So when it got time for me to get married, literally, Jack, the people my parents were hooking me up with were people fresh off the boat. Like with the chappals, with the blacks with the chappals, and like the doctors, and like the accent, not your beautiful British accent, but like the total different accent, right? And
I know.
Like not even two different worlds, two different galaxies. So I was like Sex in the City. I call my friend, I text my friend, and then she called me. Oh, there's an emergency. I've got to go. We had a plan for all these bad dates. And I just got to tell you, there was one where he was Indian, and he was a doctor, and we talked. It was going pretty well. So I went to go visit him. We had a great weekend. And then on the last day, I remember we were sitting there, we made brunch together. We're sitting there on the couch, and he said, so are you going to take off your pants? And I was like, excuse me? Am I going to take off my pants? And he's like, yeah, you're going to take off your pants, and are we going to, and that's when I'm like, take me to the airport. Like, and that was when I felt like, oh my gosh, like this man, and a lot of, I'm going to be stereotypical, but a lot of the men that I experience that are the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, want the trophy of a wife to be like, okay, you do what I say, and you're going to look nice and look pretty and everything, and you just, be quiet, and I'll take care of you. Mm-hmm. So that was the time where I'm like, okay, either I was meeting these people that my parents was setting me up with, or I lived in Los Angeles, and a lot of the Indians were trying to be Mexicans. So they were trying to be like driving the souped up car, and with the goatee, and like the swagger. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to. Right. And so like, honestly,
it's like almost like it's almost like you're just like that trophy. You're a commodity, and not want to get to know the real core you.
Absolutely.
Which is a complete turn off.
Oh, it's horrible. And there's some women that may want that. I feel like they haven't found themselves yet. That's just my personal opinion. But for me, I'm just like, hell no. So then that's when, like, my ex-husband is a great guy. He's an amazing father. He's like a great person. So I was like, okay, let me just, marry him, because I know he'll always take care of me, and we have a pretty good relationship. So I made that choice based on thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, when I got divorced, my girlfriends, I wanted to get married again, Jag, because I love being married. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go on eHarmony. I'm going to go on Match. And my girlfriend's like, hell no. You need to get all of this crazy stuff out of your system. So you need to have a rebound guy and date. But I don't meet guys at the bars. I just don't meet random people. Yeah. So we're at a bar in Santa Monica, and Michael walked in. And my girlfriend's like, you should date him. And I told to her, Michael hates it when I say this. I'm like, I would not touch his ass with a 10-foot pole. Because I knew that who he was. He was a player. He was like, you know, living in Brentwood and he'd go out all the time and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't want to date a player.
Yeah.
But then
you were friends at that time, no?
We were total friends at that time. And I'm like, no, I know too much about him. You know, because I was a girl that would help him cheat on his girlfriends, for God's sake. So I was that girl that was helping him like be a cheater. But his girlfriend and him had a lot of issues back then. So I don't want to put his name out there and say any bad things. No. They're always on and off on that roller coaster. So anyways, Mike tried to get with me and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And then I remember I was so nervous because the next week I was taking him out for his birthday. So I was talking to my friend. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want him to try to like hit on me again. It's going to be uncomfortable. And instead we had the most magical time. It was amazing. I mean, we connected so greatly. I was laughing until I was crying. And I remember driving away and saying, oh my gosh, I wish he would have kissed me. And so then I was like, okay, so we worked together at the time because I moved to his location. We went out to lunch and I'm like, hey, do you want to be my rebound guy? And he's like, what? And I'm like,
talk about being direct, Indrani.
Oh yeah, I'm very direct. I know what I want. And I was like, okay, I know that he's not going to be Mr. Forever, but he can be Mr. right now. And he was hot. So I was like, okay, you want to be my rebound guy. He was getting out of his relationship. So he said, awesome. So we dated for a while. So when I wasn't with my daughter, I would come down and stay with a friend and Mike and I would go out. And then I think it was like 3 or 4 months later, right around Valentine's Day, we went out to lunch again. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to find my man, my husband. Let's break up. Let's end whatever it is that we had. And then I met someone on Match.com immediately. And he was British. He was so different. He had a daughter, my daughter's age. He was divorced. But Mike then realized, oh my gosh, I want to be with Indrani. So Mike was still in the picture. And then long story short, I realized that if I went with this new guy, I was doing the same thing. And I was doing my comfort level to be like, oh, look, he's checking everything off the box. He's divorced with a kid and it's easier. But then I was like, oh my gosh, when would the next time be where I can marry my best friend and the guy that has always been there for me? So it was great that I didn't pick the original guy though, because when I broke up with him, I don't even know break up, but when I ended it with him, let's say, he started calling me all of these names and he was like, you're that. I was like, oh, thank God I found this out now. But it was great because once I saw Michael with my daughter, because that was my biggest thing where it's like, it's not me anymore. It's me and my daughter. And she was 2 at the time. When I saw them interacting, I fell in love with him in an even deeper way. So we've been together for about 10 years now and we still have that magic. And it is absolutely possible.
Which is good.
Oh my gosh.
On some of your lives, it's like when you mention Mike's name, it's almost, you have that automatic, like, you've got that glow on your face now as well.
Girl, well, yesterday when Brianna was taking a nap, we took care of business and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. After 10 years, we still have that amazing connection. And I look at him and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm proud to be with him. And I think that's how relationships should be. We should never have to settle. But I realized my path was I had to, and I don't even want to say settle, but I made decisions just with the head for me to realize that there's so much more out there. So I had, like, for me to find Michael, I had to go through these steps and go through my belief system and my fears and figure out who I was. And as soon as I did all of those things, I mean, he popped in and I had to continue to trust and say, oh my gosh, will he do the same things that with his last girlfriends that he did with me? But I realized that him and I were completely different. And when you're in that relationship and in that sacred space, that's when, you know.
It's always the fear that holds you back, but it's almost like you have to work through that fear in order to get where you want to be or you need to be.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I mean, obviously, like when you were like going back to like when you wanted to go to college to study, it was almost like studying was your salvation. It was your get out clause to move away from home.
Right. Absolutely. I was like, the quicker I can get the hell out of here, the quicker I can live my life. But I realized that I still took those beliefs with me. And that's something we don't realize, that even when we're trying to get out of something, we take those with us. So we're going to be still recreating our reality unless we start going in and evaluating them and saying, wait a second, where I am and where I want to be, that gap, am I able to get there with the current mindset that I have? And that right there is powerful. And even now in my business, as I have bigger goals, as I have bigger dreams, you know, those self-doubt, the fears come up all the time. It's not like we've just mastered and we're done. Like, I did my work, I'm done. Okay, now I can coach.
I mean, the thing is, like I put out there the other day, we're always work in progress. It's like there are some people who will call themselves experts, but if you're an expert, you're done doing what you're doing, but you're constantly actually a work in progress. We are constantly learning every day. We're learning from children, from their innocence. They may make a simple comment. We learn from that, or we learn from one another. You know, so we're taking on one another's experiences and expanding until we grow onto the next level. We're constantly evolving. But now with your mindset coaching, I mean, where do you see yourself in the next year with your business and within yourself? Because obviously there's a lot of things that you've overcome in the last 6 months, especially with Mike not being well a couple of months ago and stuff. So that was a real difficult time. Absolutely. As well.
Yeah, and you know, I love that you're highlighting that, because a lot of people can look on the surface and be like, oh my gosh, these people have this great life. My husband had heart surgery. He had to have an aortic valve replacement 3 years ago. And this was his second heart surgery. And that was like such a tough time. And then he landed in the hospital a few months ago for a week. We didn't know what was going on with him. And his heart surgeon was worried he'd have to go in again to his heart because his blood infection may have impacted his heart. So it's one of those things that things continue to come up. It's not like anyone's life is perfect, but yeah, seeing that, finding the lesson, unraveling that, and finding the golden nugget in the shit. Like literally, sometimes you gotta dive. Like there's times where I was diving through that to try to find that golden nugget. And it's a really powerful thing. So going back to your question, a year from now, where I see my business is I see myself guiding other coaches to do the same kind of work that I'm doing with my clients. So then I can impact the world in a more conscious way and be able to, I'm one person. So for me to be able to help 1 million women is going to take a lot of work to do. So if I can help other women bring out their passion, bring out their gifts, bring out their knowledge, bring out their purpose and their mission, and give them the confidence and the skills and the tools to be able to create that visibility so they can help other people and create financial freedom in their lives. That's where I'm going to, as well as having more courses, having masterminds, and really being able to impact women in a whole new way. And in a year from now, I want to retire my husband. And I think with a lot of the spiritual coaches out there, we're like, oh my gosh, like money is bad, or can I make money and do this? You can absolutely do both once you conquer those beliefs that are saying that you can't, and creating a plan and working with someone. For me, the biggest thing was investing in myself. I was like, wait, I can do this on my own. I tried to DIY my business for a long time, but I realized that if I want to create huge breakthroughs, and if I want to do it without as much struggle, let me work with someone who's already been there, that I get, that is aligned to my vibrations and I'm inspired by, so they can help me get there quicker with more effortlessness and ease. Because being a mom of two, having a husband who is absolutely amazing, but he's a planner and I'm not, like, and having a home and all of these things, my life is very full. So I've got to be very intentional on where I spend my time. So in my business, I work on impact and income generating opportunities because there's so much to do. When I first started, I was hustling all the time, but I was making no money. I was like, wait a second, how I'm working, But I
Yeah.
learned that you got to be very, very intentional with your time, intentional with your energy, intentional with your mission, and intentional with that vision that you have, and then continue to take that aligned action to get you there. So as I'm doing that, I'm really sinking into my goals and saying, oh my gosh, the goal for this year is huge. The goal for next year is huge. How am I able to step into that energy? How am I able to step into that mindset to really get there and then take the action to do it? Because for me, it's all about masculine and feminine energy. So we want to make sure that we are aligned in our divine feminine energy with our intention and our mindset and our vision, and then take the aligned action, which is the masculine energy, to make it happen. One without the other becomes very hard to do. And
it's all about having the balance, and also remembering that the universe is limitless. There's so much abundance there, but we always forget that. So it's almost like, how would you remind yourself? So sometimes if you're thinking that you're not getting where you need to be, how do you remind yourself that there is abundance around and you can tap into it? How do you remind yourself of that?
I love that question. That happens to me all the time. It used to happen to me all the time, and now I'm more in tune with it, but I just get freaking grateful. I start looking, and so many times we compare ourselves to the Joneses, right? To those people $1 million a year, and it's so easy, and this amazing lifestyle, and they're on the beach, and they have this beautiful body and whatever. I don't compare myself to any of those. That's my inspiration, but I compare myself to who I used to be. I compare myself to the stories that I see on TV where people don't have the mobility. They aren't able to walk. They're going through huge things in their life. So from that point, I get really grateful and I say, okay, I want to do something to help them. Mm-hmm. So if I can do something for myself, if I can create that financial freedom for myself, I can help others. Mm-hmm. So for me, literally, like every morning I wake up and I'm grateful for my bed. I'm grateful for the birds that wake my ass up every morning earlier than my alarm. I get grateful for them because it's a beautiful thing. I get grateful for the sky. I get grateful for my heart that's beating every second of every minute of every hour of every day. I get grateful for those things, and I realize how abundant I am. And so many times as coaches, I mean, I know that you and I have experienced the same thing. It's about the money, the clients. How many clients am I making? How many this, and this? And then I start thinking, do I have enough to take care of myself for today? And I'm like, I do. Anything else, any kind of anxiety that I'm causing, I'm lowering my levels. I'm bringing on more lack and more worry into my life because, like you said, every moment we're manifesting, we're co-creating the next moment, the next event, the next opportunity. So I immediately start getting grateful. And any limiting beliefs that I have, I start jotting them down and I start journaling on them. And then I'll either tap on them, I'll either beat the crap out of a pillow, I'll either go work out. I've got a little trampoline that I'll jump on, but I'll change my state, right? Yeah. And I'll say, okay, now from this state, what is one inspired action that I can do to take me one more step towards my goal? And the thing is a lot of times people don't imagine. They just want to get from A to Z, right? They're like, I just want to make those $30,000 months. I just want to have it all be easy. The thing is, the way we learn is in the journey. Yeah. And although we probably don't want to admit this, and I didn't want to admit this for a long time, we don't want to be instant manifestors. Because we came in, like we were light beings before we came here, right? We're actually made of stardust. But we came here asking for experiences, to love, to feel abundance, to feel joy. And sometimes to feel love, you've got to go through heartbreak. To feel abundance, you have to go through lack. But as you learn and you transform into the next thing, you can help other people get to where you are. And I think that is part of the growth process, and that is the amazing part. So as we continue to do our mindset work, as we continue to be present in the moment with you and I here in this moment, I'm not thinking about my clients or my group program or anything else. I'm thinking about you and I in this moment. Yeah. Everything is perfect. But once we start thinking about the future, and that future gives us anxiety, it's coming back to this moment saying, what can I do now? How can I be more mindful of what I'm putting out there? Because whatever I'm putting out there is reflecting and amplifying back to me. So if I'm worried that I don't have enough clients, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have the love, and I start worrying about that and tripping out about that, I'm going to be shown more examples that that's not happening. But if I put it into a prayer and surrender, there was a time in my business, Jag, it was 2 years ago, that I didn't know how I was going to pay my part of the mortgage. And for me to be and I'm a financially independent person, I didn't want to ask my husband at all. So I was really nervous. And so I literally, and I'm more spiritual than religious, I went for a run. I stopped off at the church and I kneeled down to Mother Mary and I just started crying. This was like during a service that was going on.
Yeah, so, I recollect this story that you shared once. Yeah.
Yeah. And I literally just had a mantra to say, I surrender all of this worry, all this fear about money now, you know, and I get emotional about it, but I'm open to seeing things in another way. I trust that the universe is working for me and I am willing to take that action. And I said that over and over and over. I did it so much where I created a mantra for myself and I recorded it. And I listened to that every single day when I was running. Every single day. And I started believing because I was rewiring my subconscious. And then I started taking that action and I brought in the clients and that started happening. But it's not like do X, Y, and Z and you're going to get that. It's about the work in process and trusting that it may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow, but as long as we continue to align that, we're going to get there. We're going to take those steps to get there. It becomes more effortless.
I mean, your journey has been so transformational from childhood to now. And it is so inspiring. And I know that you've inspired so many women along the way. You've also, your articles have been published in, is it HuffPost as well, haven't they? But if people needed to reach out to you, where could they contact you? And, excuse me, sorry. Where are you hoping, look, who would you say are your, not ideal, who are you wanting to work with in the future?
Absolutely.
And where can people contact you if they would like to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So I call them my Kismet clients. And when I say that, they're the people that are meant to work with me, the people that feel that inspiration, that feel that, oh my gosh, who is this person? And they want to know more. And the women that I work with are ambitious. They know that they're meant for more. They feel like their comfort zone and their fear has created this glass ceiling where they can't get out of. They can't go to the next level. They know that they are ready for something, but they don't know how. And they are open to doing some deep ass work to be able to get to where they want to be, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in their business or their life. The mindset and the intuitive part is just so powerful, and it's what I love doing. I love getting the messages and helping them do that work to really come back to themselves. This whole journey is to come back to ourselves and to who we truly are. So those are the people that I work with. I've got courses and group programs and one-on-one coaching to really create that staircase approach to kind of work with me. And a lot of my clients will start from that place and then end up working with me one-on-one. And the best way to find me is I have a website. I mean, I don't know. One of my beliefs are websites are kind of, I don't want to say dead, but I'm on social media, so people can follow me on Facebook, Indrani Phillips. And then I have a group called The Soul Fulfilling Money Making Kick-Ass Entrepreneur. And that's where I share a lot of videos, a lot of strategies, a lot of tips. And I really give a lot of myself to help these women really start jump-starting and create a catalyst of change to start stepping into that future that they desire and they deserve, because we all deserve to have it all. It's about believing in ourselves and taking those steps to get there.
Thank you so much, Indrani. It's been fun speaking with you.
Yes, I love it, Jag. You are such a blast, and you're such a gift to everyone as well. I mean, like, I love how honest you are with your psychic gifts, and quick side note, my husband had an amazing interview last Friday, and it's so cute. He's like, Jag said I'm gonna have multiple offers this month, and so I'm gonna make a decision and stuff. So it's cute how you're part of our household. And he's like, that's what she said. That's what he doesn't call you Jag. He's like, that's what your psychic friend says. That's what she said. So I'll have to let you know, but I love how you're supporting the world in a really powerful way, and being you and being able to tap into those gifts and be able to create financial freedom by really helping people in an amazing way. So thank you for everything that you do.
Well, thank you. You've been part of my journey, Indrani.
I love it. And I love seeing you grow. I see her, I'm like, oh my God, that is a badass, doing your thing and standing in your truth and really saying, you know what, it's my time to create who I'm meant to be. And not have to think about any of those perceptions or labels people put on you.
It's like you were saying, like letting go of everything and creating. It's time. It's my time. I mean, I'm hitting 40 myself this year, so it's almost like, let's just leave the last 40 years, all those experiences, and step into something new. So new chapters for all of us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that if I can do it, anyone can, because I wasn't born this courageous, brave girl. Yeah. I look back at my life now, I'm like, how the hell did I do this? And I'm astonished as well. So, I mean, what I love saying is, my business is the effortless life rocks.
Yeah.
It takes effort to be effortless, but if I can do it, anyone can do it. With all the fears, with all the thoughts, am I good enough? All of those things, I've been able to move through those and give those love and release them. And so if I can do it, anyone can do it as well, because I've been riddled with that, and that could have kept me where I was. But, when we take that action and we find that guidance within, we can do anything.
Great. Thank you.
This was so much fun, Jag. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone wants to connect with me, you can go ahead and follow me. I'm Indrani Phillips. And if you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer them. This was amazing. And thank you so much for having me on your amazing show, Jag.
Thank you.